Part 95. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 941. Chapter 941 Recognition. Zhang Xiaoxiao asked the two people to get up and ask them to notify others to hold a meeting here. She had something to explain. It was just a cup of tea, and 30 or 40 people came to the yard one after another. They are all dressed like ordinary people, and they are inconspicuous in the crowd. However, it can be seen that everyone is a smart, capable, and well-spoken type of person. They entered the courtyard calmly. Some of them Zhang Xiaoxiao had seen before, and some she had never seen at all. However, these people all have one characteristic. As soon as they enter the door, they go directly to Zhang Xiaoxiao and kowtow to thank him. Their eyes are filled with gratitude and excitement for Zhang Xiaoxiao, as if they have met some important person. Zhang Xiaoxiao is also a little moved. These ancient people were so simple and had a little kindness. In their minds, it was as big as the sky. Of course, it cannot be said that there are no traitors like Xiaoxiao, but these people's admiration for her and their gratitude to her are sincere. It really means that a drop of water should be repaid by a spring. Zhang Xiaoxiao carefully asked about each of them, and also asked about the guard status of the government offices in the city, as well as the closing time of the city gate and the guard status of the city gate. After roughly understanding it, Li Shenyu asked them to help him find a topographic map of the government office. Li Shenyu was startled and looked for the topographic map of the government office. This is what ordinary people can do. But he was already used to them doing whatever Mr. Zhang said, so he ordered the people below him. In just a long time, someone found Zhang Xiaoxiao's topographic map of the government office. Not to mention, there are really capable people here. Some of the refugees were originally soldiers, but they fled immediately after losing the battle. Even if the defeated generals return to the army, they will be tortured and even charged with unwarranted charges. For the sake of their families and their lives, these people would rather escape than go back. Of course, you still have some ability to do these things. The person who accomplished this was called Su Wu. Not only did he help Zhang Xiaoxiao get the topographic map, he even made the arrangements in the yamen and the prison clear. Let Zhang Xiaoxiao take a look. Su Wu, do you know what I am going to do? Zhang Xiaoxiao was very sure that the Su Wu in front of him knew what he wanted to do. Otherwise, she would not know these things clearly for herself. It would be a bit scary for such a person to figure out people's hearts. Of course, she doubted that the person in front of her knew her identity. Su Wu lowered his head and replied, "Master Zhang, you have to save Li Yu." Li Shenyu and Linda Wang were frightened and went into prison to save people. This is a fatal matter. Zhang Xiaoxiao glanced at Li Shenyu and Linda Wang, both of whom looked pale. "I am going into the prison to rescue people. If you don't want to do it with me, you can withdraw now. Just pretend that you don't know about this and just go back to the village." Zhang Xiaoxiao doesn't force herself. With her skills, it's easy to go to prison and save someone. We're not even afraid of monsters. All we have to do is put on a cloak, a mask, and hold a dagger in our hand. I'm afraid those prison guards couldn't stop her from trying to save someone, and they could retreat at any time. The most annoying thing was that in ancient times, the city gate would be closed when the time came, so she had to seize the time. Advance and retreat must be measured and arranged properly. She doesn't want to hurt anyone casually. Listening to the words of the government officials, you can tell that they don't want to confront these prison robbers. Everyone wants to live. They are all innocent people, and they don't want to kill too hard. Li Shenyu shook his head, "Mr. Zhang, I won't go back. It was you who saved my life on the first day. Without you, I would have died long ago. No matter what you want to do today, I will definitely help you. Even if it means using my life." Linda Wang's face was filled with annoyance, and he was overtaken by Li Shenyu again. He hesitated for a moment and weighed the pros and cons. After all, he could live a good life with Mr. Zhang. Besides, although the risk is high, who knows what will happen in the future. This world will suffocate the bold and starve the timid to death. The world is difficult anyway. As long as you can survive, killing people and setting fires are nothing. Those bandits are not all forced by good people. Mr. Zhang is such a big man, and he is involved with the Wu family. He made snowflake salt today, so he will definitely make arrangements, and he cannot rob the prison with great fanfare. He helped Mr. Zhang, and maybe his weight in front of Mr. Zhang will become much heavier in the future. But it's a good thing now that Li Shiniu has stolen his limelight again. Mr. Zhang, I'm not leaving either, just make arrangements, we'll do whatever you say. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at Su Wu. Su Wu, I just want to ask you, how do you know that the person I am going to rob is Li Yu? Su Wu fell to his knees and said, I am Su Wu, the scout general under the eldest brother Zhang Gongzi. I am paying homage to the eldest lady. I have seen Zhang Gongzi's demeanor. You and Zhang Gongzi have almost the same aura. You look just like the young master in this world. The villain has already realized that you are the eldest lady when they met just now. In addition, you asked us to find the topographic map of the government office, and the villain immediately guessed that you must be here for Li Yu. Only then can we dare to make bold guesses. Su Wu's words made Zhang Xiaoxiao feel relieved. The other party recognized her as Zhang Suimei. It seems that Su Wu has never met the real eldest daughter of the Zhang family, so he just recognized himself as the eldest daughter of the Zhang family based on his aura, which is fine. Su Wu, have you never met the eldest lady of the Zhang family? Su Wu shook his head. The eldest lady has been weak since she was a child and was raised in a boudoir where no one knows her. We all heard that the eldest lady never sees outsiders. We have only heard about the eldest lady's charm. But no one has really seen it. Miss, I just relied on them calling you young Master Zhang. Since you dare to claim your surname is Zhang, and you are clearly disguised as a man, and what you did in Jiakan. As for your purpose this time, I can boldly guess that you are the eldest lady of the Zhang family. Miss, don't worry, the villain once received the grace of the young master, and now he has the grace of the eldest lady, so that he can protect the whole family. The villain will definitely protect the eldest lady. No matter what you want to do, eldest lady, the villain will follow you to the death. How many people are as trustworthy as you who are willing to help me? Zhang Xiaoxiao naturally wouldn't think that Su Wu was alone. Su Wu is a thoughtful person at first glance, since people are bold enough to recognize her as the eldest lady. Of course, there are complete countermeasures to protect yourself. The eldest lady is indeed a genius. Su Wu also has 4 or 5 brothers. At first, we didn't believe that Mr. Zhang would be a treasonous minister. We tried our best to redress Mr. Jiang's grievances. Who knew that we would be ostracized by the top? They wanted to arrest us, so we had to run away to save our lives. These people are now following me in the city, doing small business on weekdays, and helping the eldest lady to find out the news. But we never thought that someone with such magical skills would be the eldest lady. Su Wu's eyes were filled with admiration. She was worthy of being the daughter of the pavilion elder, and her methods were even more powerful than those of ordinary people. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 942. Chapter 942, Rescue. Dark night, suddenly a fire broke out in the south garden of the yamen. That is Master Futai's backyard. In an instant, the fire brigade rushed over with a water tanker. The whole yamen was in chaos. A black shadow took the opportunity to jump into the high wall and walked along this road directly to the high wall at the end of the prison. Behind this is the government prison. Hand in a group of prisoners. If there are no calculation errors, this location should be where Li Yu was imprisoned. It seems that Su Wu is really capable, and he can actually figure out the detailed situation of this prison, and even knows where Li Yu is in prison. It seems that even if she didn't come, I'm afraid Su Wu originally wanted to rescue Li Yu. I don't know if Su Wu and the others were responsible for the first 2 prison robberies. Just give her this position. Facing the high wall, there is an alleyway. There is no one in the alleyway now. Behind the high wall is another wall. If you go over it, you will find the back alley of Fui Dalao. Here, there is a mixture of fish and dragons, and many ordinary people live here. A dung truck is waiting here. Zhang Xiaoxiao put on his cloak and kicked over the wall with one strong kick. Li Yu was hit by the dusty clods of dirt. Before he could react, he saw a man jumping in, picked him up and left. As soon as Li Yu moved, Li Yu immediately fainted from pain. The sky was slightly bright, and the city was in chaos. At the gate of the city, security has already been stepped up. Officers and soldiers strictly searched everyone entering and exiting. People lined up in long queues and complained, "Why is it so complicated today? I heard that there were bad guys in the city, and they actually led people to rob the prison." Can't help but complain one after another. An ox cart pulling dung came slowly. People who smelled the smell covered their noses and moved out of the way. "Zhang-san, why are you so late today? Shouldn't you be leaving the city early in the morning? Now you're going to smoke people to death." Brother Hu, the leader of the inspection officers and soldiers, glared angrily. This was not to bring trouble to them. "Hold your nose and stay away in disgust." Zhang-san jumped out of the car in a hurry. Hands and bows constantly. "Master Tiger, it's not that I don't want to come out earlier. The officers and soldiers closed the street last night, and I have to go from house to house to collect the goods before I can leave. It's too late now. Master Tiger, don't be angry. I'll leave now, I'll leave now." Mr. Tiger waved his whip in dissatisfaction. "Hurry up, let's go." Zhang-san hurriedly pulled the cow and left. No one paid attention to the smelly dung bucket. Zhang-san quickly left the city. Only when we reached the fork in the road 3 miles away was there someone to help us. There was actually a compartment under the dung bucket. A tightly wrapped man was moved to the carriage, and soon the carriage drove away. Zhang-san whistled and continued to do his job. Li Yu remembered that he was carried out in a daze and passed out from the pain. There was always a pungent smell that never dissipated, making him nauseous several times. Fortunately, he remembered the person's instructions: if he wanted to escape, just you must hold back and not make any noise. He endured it until he almost died. When he woke up again, he found that he was already lying in a clean and bright cabin. The mattress was soft and clean, and he had changed his clothes. Li Yu stood up gently. "I feel nothing at all." Opening his clothes, he was surprised to find that all the injuries on his body were healed. Touching his leg, he remembered that it was broken. There is no doctor in the cell. His legs are rotten. Li Yu knew that he would probably be disabled all his life, but who knew that his legs were intact now? "Get off the ground and stand up slowly. You can really walk." At this time, a girl came in with soup and medicine. When she saw Li Yu standing on the ground, she hurriedly stepped forward. "Sir, you'd better lie down and have a good rest, and drink this medicine first." The little girl helped him lie down clumsily, and Li Yu's bones felt like he was lying down. Waving his hand, "No, I'll sit and drink." "Where is this? Who saved me?" "Ljiakan, you were rescued by Mr. Zhang." He handed the medicine to him and said, "Drink it quickly. Mr. Zhang wants me to watch you drink it." The little girl looked at Li Yu persistently, thinking that if Li Yu didn't take the medicine well, she would just start pouring it into him. Li Yu smiled bitterly, tilted his neck and drank the medicine. "I'm fine, all my injuries are healed. I want to see Mr. Zhang of yours." What he is curious about is which Mr. Zhang is Mr. Zhang. 800 members of the Zhang family were all killed by the sword, and the only survivor was Zhang Suimei. He did not remember Mr. Zhang. How many of the mentor's grandsons escaped? I feel a little excited. If it is true that the grandson of his mentor survived, it would not be in vain for these people to sacrifice their lives. The mentor has at least one successor. The little girl nodded, but no one paid attention to him all day. Zhang Xiaoxiao is not ignoring Li Yu, but he is busy today. The Wu family came to collect the remaining snowflake salt, and Linda Wang took people to the salt field again. They have to give the Wu family 5,000 kilograms of snowflake salt every month. Now this is their big business. In recent days, Jiakan and Lin Jiakan have changed their appearance. High city walls were built around the surrounding villages. With the money, Zhang Xiaoxiao was not stingy. The city walls were built quite solidly, and they also built crenels with fortifications and houses with observation posts. Of course, the houses in the village are now built differently, and they have all been converted into brick houses. Bricks. Right? 2 brick kilns were built in the village, and the village produces its own red bricks. Different from blue bricks, it seems to be very light when weighed, but with the addition of sand and cement, building a house with red bricks saves money. Production is not difficult either. Several brick kilns not only produce bricks for building houses in their own villages, but many people in other villages are also inquiring about their red bricks. The 2 villages are now increasingly populated. The house has a unified model, with 2 floors and a small second floor. Every household is a brick house, with collective toilets, and a unified water supply system. There are enough water wells in both villages. Zhang Xiaoxiao hired a carpenter to design a new pressurized water well. Zhang Xiaoxiao really wants to go back and buy some random things to change the technology here. The problem is that 9's energy is not enough. The growth cycle of Wuivang flowers in Jiang's small space is very long, and they don't ripen every few days. The only thing that can provide energy to number 9 is Wuhuahua. At present, Zhang Xiaoxiao can only rely on his own strength, so if he wants to use modern high technology, it will take time to develop here. Of course, she can only be self-sufficient, use some of the methods she knows, and find some skilled craftsmen to come up with ideas to make what she needs. That's why it happened now. Zhang Xiaoxiao also regretted that her knowledge of physics and chemistry was insufficient and half-baked. Fortunately, she had someone capable to help her. She can simply draw a picture and others can understand it. It is really not her fault. The wisdom of working people cannot be underestimated. Li Yu lay there for a long time, feeling really bored. Going out of the house, he found that no one was watching over him. He walked directly to the village and walked around slowly. Li Yu was a little surprised when he saw the various constructions in the village. It seemed that there were capable people in the village and the construction in the village was in an orderly manner. It was no less than a provincial city. When he arrived at the training ground, he was frightened when he saw the uniform and powerful soldiers, especially those who were walking in unison and shouting slogans. Everyone was full of energy. These soldiers are in better condition than the officers and soldiers of their court. Obviously, discipline and obedience are much higher than those of officers and soldiers. And it is obvious that these trained villagers are very powerful. It seems that the training method is very simple, but the trained people are obviously more combat effective than the officers and soldiers of the government. Who is this person training the villagers here? What is the purpose of training these villagers? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 943. Chapter 943 Opening Up. But he saw a heroic figure standing on a high platform, watching the training. From time to time, someone would report something to him. The figure was thin, but he was full of energy and high spirits, which made Li Yu burst into tears instantly. That is not the style of a teacher. That kind of self-confidence, intimidating momentum, and unconcealable brilliance, that is the living shadow of a teacher. Just as Zhang Xiaoxiao finished explaining everything, Linda Wang was already on the road to transport private salt. Li Shiniu is rectifying the refugees. Darljia village and Linjia village are also famous in Fujian, and many refugees know that they can get food here. Basically, the 2 days on the road were full of refugees dragging their families with them. The population of the two villages now exceeds 5,000. Food is a big problem. Zhang Xiaoxiao dug 10 granaries in the mountains. The locations were secret and only Li Shiniu and the Li family clan elders knew about them. They were full of grain. No one has ever asked where the food came from. This is a sign of great trust in Zhang Xiaoxiao. Zhang stepped up, planting in a small space. The crops of grain fill up the granary and the granary in the village. She was eager to complete the task, and it would not hurt her even if someone found something wrong. If number 10 transformed into a red flame gun, she couldn't wait to take number 10 back. Whether the space is discovered or not, it doesn't matter to her. When Zhang Xiaoxiao saw Li Yu, he couldn't help but smile, his eyes showing joy. Her joy is naturally because Li Yu is a useful talent. After some investigation by her, Su Wu said that Li Yu was a man with astonishing abilities. He was once the most powerful disciple in Zhang Ji's mouth. Talents. She needs people who can support her. That person is as talented as Zhuge Yang. However, in Li Yu's eyes, he thought Zhang Xiaoxiao was happy to see his old friend. "Brother Li, are you awake? Let's go back and talk. You just woke up and still need to cultivate yourself." The attitude is cordial. As a doctor, it is impossible for Zhang Xiaoxiao to have a bad attitude toward patients. What's more, we have something to ask for from others. Li Yu lifted his robe and knelt down directly. "Miss, I don't dare to say Brother Li, I've been looking for you, but there's been no word from you. I didn't expect that it was the eldest lady who saved me. Is this the daughter of my mentor, the legendary Zhang Suimei, who is delicate and easily pushed down, sick and frail?" But he absolutely believed that this was the granddaughter of his mentor. Only the granddaughter of his mentor could have such talent and ability. She could disguise herself as a man and make a difference by herself. I sighed in my heart, as expected, the tiger father has no dog daughter. Looking at the female master, although he has never shown his true face to others, once he starts to do it, he can be extraordinary. When he saw these well-trained villagers, he would never believe that the female master trained these people just to make a living. The young lady must have a plan in mind. He has been suffering from the inability to avenge his mentor. After being caught, he really thought that this life would be the end of his life. Just waiting for Chiu Ho to ask, no matter what torture the other party uses, he will not change his story, and he will die a worthy death. But now he suddenly felt that everything was hopeful. The young lady was not as weak as people said. Instead, women disguised themselves as men and started such a career. The female master resembled his grandfather. The Zhang family has a descendant. Zhang Xiaoxiao hurriedly helped the person up. "Brother Li, don't be like this. From now on, there will be no more Zhang Suimei in the world, only Mr. Zhang. I only avenge the Zhang family. I hope that I can vindicate my Zhang family today, so why not do it myself?" A sentence that speaks volumes. Li Yu's eyes heated up. Miss Zhang was really different from what he imagined. "Master Zhang, how do you want to be redressed?" The two of them sat down. Zhang Xiaoxiao smiled slightly. "Brother Li, I want you to help me." Li Yu frowned. "Sir. Those people left behind by the Zhang family have long been torn apart, dead and rebellious. The imperial court is now cowardly and incompetent, and the new emperor who ascends the throne is a cowardly and incompetent monarch. If you want him to give Mr. Boss a clean name, I'm afraid it's just a dream. Originally, he also expected Jinshang to give Mr. Lao an ordinary opportunity, thinking that Jinshang was just deceived by those traitors. Who knew that now that the court was being corrupted by those powerful officials, it would be even more impossible for Mr. Lao. Yes, since the current emperor cannot be counted on, I have never counted on him. Let him help my family redress. This injustice in the world will naturally be taken care of by the people of the world. You mean? Li Yu didn't dare to say the disobedient words. In this age where people believe in the king and let the ministers die, but the ministers have to die, a minister had some rebellious thoughts in his heart. It is definitely against the common sense of this era. Brother Li, since you can't do it with your words, then use force to do it. I want to have power over the world, so that the world can truly change its dynasty and replace a group of people with ideals to serve the people and truly do things for the people of the world. Let the people of the world have food and clothing, live and work in peace and contentment. Even if it means letting me die, I am willing to do so. Zhang Xiaoxiao was ashamed that he had not seen what she said, which made Li Yu in front of him shed tears of excitement. But her selfish intention was just to deal with number 10. Sir, Li Yu is willing to follow you to the death, even to the death. These are the descendants of our mentor. Such a righteous world, upholding the right path, serving the country and the people. Only the descendants of the Zhang family can speak out words for the country and the people. Zhang Xiaoxiao let go completely. Since Li Yu is known as a generation of genius, she can naturally let go. Only then did Li Yu understand the ins and outs of the matter. He did not expect that this young lady had extraordinary abilities and had only been working for 3 to 5 months. Actually had 5,000 soldiers and horses in hand, and they were well-trained soldiers and horses. The defenses currently built in the village are enough for them to deal with the surrounding bandits, foreigners, and even the officers and soldiers of the government. It is absolutely impossible for the government to mobilize a large number of troops and horses for these people to collect. After all, the number of people in the government is limited, not to mention that food and grass have been stolen countless times by corrupt officials. Now the officers and soldiers are already weak and can be bullied. Li Yu began to think about how to expand his territory. Zhang left all the minor affairs to Li Yu. By the way, Li Yu suggested that he needed generals to lead troops to fight. He could write a few letters and contact his mentor's old department. Perhaps he has a talent for writing. Zhang Xiaoxiao naturally welcomed him with both hands. Zhang Xiaoxiao's Snowflake Salt has now become a national-scale company. In view of signing a contract with the Wu family, Zhang Xiaoxiao sent other people to open up trade routes in the south of the Yangtze River and along the river bank. Snowflake Salt cannot be sold, but she has plenty of stuff in her hands. Finely crafted rice paper, pens, inks, paper and inkstones, as well as exquisite clothing materials and silks, and cloths that are woven and dyed in bright colors that will never fade, are even more popular among the people in Jiangnan. There are also finely made colored glazes and crystals, which are almost the most popular items that the wealthy households in Jiangnan are rushing to buy. They are not short of money. By the way, it can also open up more partners. Having relations with almost all the 8 major imperial merchants. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 944. Chapter 944 Supplementary Materials. At the same time, Zhang Xiaoxiao and his men began to suppress the bandits. Yes, go all the way around. The villagers of Jiakan almost wiped out dozens of mountains and captured thousands of soldiers and horses. Unless the crime is extremely heinous, he must be killed on the spot to set an example. The rest of the bandits who had no bad deeds and had not done any bad things were all taken under Zhang Xiaoxiao's command. A month later, Zhang Jiajan's reputation was already well known outside Yanmen Pass. Zhang Xiaoxiao has more than 10,000 people under his command. Zhang Xiaoxiao was worried. They had people and horses, but they had no place to put them. The two villages of Ljiakan and Linjiakan combined have limited land and limited houses. Since these bandits have been captured by them and decided to change their evil ways to good deeds, the problem is that there is no place to accommodate them. Zhang Xiaoxiao and Li Yu discussed for a long time. What should we do now? Looking at the county seat. Haiyan County as a whole can accommodate a population of 80,000. There are only 1,000 officers and soldiers in the county. The imperial court is already in chaos. There are the Red Flame Army in the south causing trouble, and the Golden Army in the north attacking the city. Now that there is a big chaos, each government is not guaranteed to protect themselves, and the court sent heavy soldiers to two places to destroy rebellion. They are basically unmanaged here. Although there are soldiers and horses guarding the border, it is a pity that these soldiers and horses will not move easily. They are mainly used to defend the border from foreign invasion. Who cares what they are doing? A county government, if no one knows about it, basically no one will know about it. This is the problem of message lag. What's more important is that Zhang Xiaoxiao also has the idea of Yanmen Pass. This was not Zhang Xiaoxiao's idea alone. Even if Zhang Xiaoxiao had the heart, he would not have the courage. Yanmen Pass is the real capital city. There are at least hundreds of thousands of border officers stationed there. Going to Yanmenguan to come up with this idea was not wishful thinking, but it was Li Yu who gave her this idea. Li Yu said that although the generals of the army currently stationed at Yanmen Pass were not familiar to him, they were newly appointed personnel by the emperor. Of course, they were also representatives of a certain force selected from the internal struggle within the imperial court. But the biggest advantage is filtering through their news network. It was discovered that there were many hundreds of thousands of households under the guard of Yanmen Pass. They were all soldiers of the army led by the former Mr. Zhang. They were scattered and placed in various military camps. The purpose was to destroy the prestige of Mr. Jianga and also to destroy Mr. Jianga. The power that I once had in my hands. That's why we need to break up the situation so that these people can no longer have any means of getting out of trouble. Who would have imagined that now it becomes the most beneficial thing for them? After all, these were once the bravest soldiers. With such treatment, how could there be no resentment in their hearts? And once these people gather into one force, it is a force that can subvert everything. Moreover, they have been in the army for so many years. Even if they are scattered, they have already become one with the current soldiers. After all, it has been several years. In any case, these people should have developed some power of their own. In this case, once they accept such soldiers and horses, these 100,000 soldiers and horses will become the strongest backbone in their hands. How to make them surrender is a problem. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't stop for a moment. The 10,000 horses in her hand have now been trained by her to form an army of steel warriors. The most joyful thing is just a few days ago, the Wuivong flowers in Jiang's small space finally matured. After these blockbusters matured, they immediately became cheaper. After taking more Wuivong Hua, number 9 felt more energetic and could send Zhang Xiaoxiao back. Zhang Xiaoxiao returned to his own world, and the first thing he did was to find Jin Dachuan. She had already sent her daughter and 5 bodyguards back, and Jin Dachuan must have gotten the news. Since she is now organizing an army to carry out a major rebellion, she needs weapons. Although that era was an era of cold weapons, she needed some hot weapons. Weapons such as gunpowder still played a key role in warfare in the cold weapon age. Zhang Xiaoxiao definitely doesn't have the ability to get such things. She can get medical equipment, and various medical supplies, but it is simply a dream to get access to such weapons banned by the country. When she found the things that Jin Dachuan said she needed, the look in Jin Dachuan's eyes at her was indescribable. The main reason is that Jin Dachuan doesn't know where Zhang Xiaoxiao went. Even if the 5 bodyguards come back, they have lost all their memories. After the 5 bodyguards came back, Song Xian directly wiped their memories. In other words, they couldn't tell where they went or what they did when they came back. They didn't know anything. Zhang Xiaoxiao asked for these things and in these quantities. It was obvious that he was launching a large-scale war. What is Zhang Xiaoxiao doing in peacetime? Jin Dachuan didn't know if it was because his comrades' comas stimulated Zhang Xiaoxiao. Is this guy going to be antisocial and anti-human? Revenge on society? Under Zhang Xiaoxiao's repeated assurances, he will definitely not start any war. Jin Dachuan is based on his trust in Zhang Xiaoxiao and Song Moding. After all, they have been together for so many years, and both of them are truly good people. Have never done anything out of the ordinary, especially Zhang Xiaoxiao, who is considered a good person among good people. Treating diseases and saving people is probably the most important thing in Zhang Xiaoxiao's mind. He believes that a doctor will not do anything that harms human society. Help Zhang Xiaoxiao get what she needs. Jin Dachuan does things with his heart in mind. Zhang Xiaoxiao prepared a large amount of supplies and medical supplies that she needed, of course thanks to selling all the crystals in the space. These crystals are the best diamonds in this world after all. Number 9 can directly exchange them for her, so there is no shortage of money. After Zhang Xiaoxiao brought back these equipments, he could equip his own 10,000 horses. Of these 10,000 horses, 500 people were specially selected for special training. When these people first saw the power of gunpowder, even Li Yu was frightened. They have seen artillery. Their government has artillery. It is made of earth, can explode easily, and has a short range. It's pretty useless, but of course it does have some power. But these things that Zhang Xiaoxiao took out were not of the same level at all. It looks light and not heavy at all. But just once, after being thrown out, half of the hill behind the village was blown down. Who dares to underestimate the power of this kind of thing? Li Yu was ecstatic the moment he saw this thing. With the addition of this small artillery, the combat effectiveness of their army was greatly enhanced. Even tall city walls could not stop the attack of this small artillery. I didn't see that half of the mountain was blown down. Is the city wall stronger than the mountain? With such combat power, Yanmen Pass is nothing. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 945. Chapter 945 A Great Victory. Not yet waiting for them to go to Yanmen Pass. They ushered in the first battle. Since they had 10,000 horses in their hands, some villages around the two villages have also come to surrender. Mainly because the high walls built by Ljia village and Linjia village were too shocking. In addition, everyone knows that there are 10,000 soldiers and horses in Linjia village and Ljia village. They train so many people there and protect their two villages and make them rich and abundant. The village chiefs of other villages naturally had thoughts in their minds. It is not easy to survive in this world, and only those who rely on the strong can survive. The lives of the people in the village are already hard enough. If someone can protect them, at least they don't have to worry about bandits or foreign invasion. As a result, more than a dozen surrounding villages are now connected together. Many villages are following Li Shiniu and Linda Wang. On one side, the village is reclaiming wasteland, and on the other side, the village is developing various measures. On one side, it is manufacturing and selling snowflake salt, and on the other side, it is opening a brick kiln. Now their red bricks have been sold all over the country along the trade routes they opened. There is also the cement recipe that Zhang Xiaoxiao just provided them. This was after Zhang Xiaoxiao returned to that world. Task Jin Dachuan helped her get it. This cement recipe is not a secret in modern times. But when it was first made in ancient times, a layer was plastered on the outside of the city wall. 2 days later, their people were in a daze when they saw the cement wall. I didn't expect this thing to be so strong. Every household in the village began to use cement, and the middle walls of red brick houses were plastered with cement. When this house is built, it is extremely strong, especially when the outside is plastered with a layer of cement. Even the roof can be made of cement condensed boards. Compared with the original thatched roof, it is simply not that strong. A little bit, a little bit. Think about it and you will know how many people would rush to buy the cement made from the cement recipe. If this mud house was completely built like this cement house, it would not leak in rainy days or fall down in windy days, and they would not be afraid of a flood or something like that. It would be nothing like the original house, which would collapse in a little while. No more. At Liu's suggestion, he only wanted to build a high wall outside every village, and it was this kind of strong cement wall. Fortresses were formed one by one to help each other. Everyone exchanges information. Once something happens in the village and the gong is sounded or the smoke is set off, other villages will immediately receive the news. And today they received the news. At midnight. At the forefront of Menjiazai, which was close to the foreigners, smoke was set off, and there were flashes of fire. Others immediately informed them of the news. Upon hearing this, Zhang Xiaoxiao realized that there was a foreign invasion. Let alone anything else, they were definitely going. The people here have been trained in combat, and they are also given opportunities to practice. On the other hand, we must make people feel that if one person is in trouble, everyone can help. Only when we unite as one heart, people will become more and more unified. Whenever the working people need a savior. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't want to be a savior, but it's true that the world needs change and innovation. Zhang Xiaoxiao personally led the team, and Li Shenyu led 1,000 troops, 100 of whom were the famous firearms team. This team was feared in the army, and they had all seen the power of the firearms. Hamid and his men surrounded the village with a clamor. This winter, we actually encountered a cold wave that has never happened in a century. After the heavy snowfall, many cattle and sheep were frozen to death on the grassland. For them, there were no cattle, sheep, and no food. How to live is naturally a difficult problem. But for Turks like them, when there is no food, they rob it. Anyway, it is not like this every year. If they have no food or water, they will go to the villages in front of Yanmen Pass to rob it. In any case, those villagers are just like the cattle and sheep they raise. Fight if you want, kill if you want. This is to bring sheep from the home sheepfold. Who would have thought that as soon as they arrived near the familiar village, the spy in front reported that there was an extra high wall in the village. Hamid didn't believe it at all, so he rode his horse and came closer to take a look. Sure enough, a high wall stood in front of him, which made him feel so angry that he couldn't get up or get down. How dare these two-legged sheep do this? I really thought this broken wall could stop them. I really don't know how powerful the Turks are. So leading people means rushing and killing. Who would have thought that they would not fight at all? There was a sound of gongs on the high wall, and fire shot into the sky. Their cavalry couldn't jump up the high wall at all. The wall was actually not an ordinary earth wall. It is so hard that if you stab it with a knife or a spear, there won't even be a hole. They didn't bring a ladder to attack the city. They shot arrows to threaten, but the people inside wouldn't come out. They tried to climb up with ropes, but immediately someone poured hot oil on them and stoned them. It's almost the same without rolling wood and rocks. Anyway, in just a short period of time, several people were killed and more than a dozen were injured. Hamid was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Let's go to the next village. The people in the tribe were all waiting for food to survive the winter. Before he left, he made bold words and vowed to give the tribe a well-fed and clothed winter. How could he come back without success now? Report, Your Majesty, there is a group of people surrounding us. There are quite a few people, twice as many as us. What should we do now? Hamid was surprised. The Southerners have always been weak and easy to bully. When did more Southerners dare to resist them? Your Majesty, the army is always deceitful. There may be Southern troops nearby. Otherwise, We should withdraw first and see what happens. Hamid's men came up with ideas. They had dealt with the Southerners. These Southerners were always cunning and might have some conspiracy. Hamid waved his hands carelessly, completely unbelieving and confident. Don't be afraid, so what if it's a Southern army? Since the death of the general of the Zhang family army, there are still Southerners who dare to go against us. That is to say, they are just pretending to be powerful. Wait until I take you up to meet the enemy and kill them. Don't leave it alone. The rest of the people cheered. They came to the south just for food and grass to survive the winter. Now that they were frustrated, they felt a rage in their chests and wanted to vent it out. I can't wait to go to the battlefield and kill those Southerners. Hamid and his men rode back to face the enemy. Who knew that there was no time to see the enemy's head-on attack? But he heard fire flashing around his ears and thunder rumbling. A sound like thunder exploded among them. I saw the soldiers dying immediately and being wounded. The horses had long been frightened by the sound and lost control. The situation suddenly became uncontrollable. Zhang Lishaniu came to report happily. Sir, we killed 300 enemies and captured 200. Among them was a Turkic Tatar king who should be a high official. They always suffered heavy casualties when encountering Turks. Every year the village would be attacked by the Turks, with countless casualties, but now they actually won a complete victory. There were no casualties. This is all due to Mr. Jiang's ability. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 946. Chapter 946 Exchange. The villagers were excited. Countless villagers came out of the high wall. When they saw the wounded soldiers and generals, they all took hoes and sickles to kill people. Countless people grieve for their dead relatives and want revenge. Zhang Xiaoxiao ordered them to disperse. It is an international law not to kill prisoners. She is not someone who cares about human life. Can't violate the original intention. Bringing the Turkic king up, Zhang Xiaoxiao thought that they might be able to open a different path. Their troops are all infantry, and cavalry is only available to the Turks. The Turks are good at riding and shooting. Except for the imperial court that keeps some horses, the rest do not have the best cavalry. Now there happens to be a ready-made Turkic king in hand. This is not a ready-made deal. Change horses. Zhang Xiaoxiao wants to build a comprehensive army. Requires various types of troops. Cavalry is naturally indispensable. Hamid was brought up. He was considered the most powerful general under the Khan, otherwise he would not have dared to come with 500 cavalry to cut the grass. The Southerners, who were originally just like cattle and sheep, turned out to be so powerful. What's your name? Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at this man. He had a beard and was wearing a big red coat with black fur outside. He had an injured leg and was holding a stick. He was covered in blood. He must have been thrown off a horse. Have to. It's not a serious injury. It's really a good fortune. I am Hamid, the great king of the Khan. How dare you, a little southerner, arrest me? My Khan will not let it go if he knows it. You guys should wash your necks and wait for death. His arrogant words and attitude are very arrogant. He doesn't look like a prisoner, but like a high and mighty king. Okay, then I'll leave you useless and pull you down and chop you. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't say much and waved his hand. As soon as Li Shaniu heard this, he grabbed Hamid by the neck and walked out without being polite at all. How many villagers die at the hands of these Turks every year? These Turks not only kill people, set fire to steal things. The most important thing is that they will capture these people and use them as so-called two-legged sheep, work for them, serve as slaves, and even rob their women. There is no family that has not had anyone die at the hands of these Turks. This is a deep hatred that has been carried on for generations. According to their thinking, these Turks who were originally captured had all been buried alive. But Mr. Zhang said that it would be useful to keep it, so they kept it. Now Mr. Zhang has just cut it down, so why are they so polite? At first Hamid thought these people were just pretending to scare him, but suddenly he realized that the young man inside didn't even glance at him from the corner of his eye. The one holding his neck clearly had the strength in his hands, and he was really going to kill him. Hunted him and walked out. When he left the account, he saw that the knife mate had already chopped 5 or 6 people on his hand. The cold light of the broadsword made the expression of the knife and axe hand even more ferocious. Hamid was also shocked. He didn't really want to die. How could a person like him be willing to die? Among the Turks, he is also regarded as the son of a nobleman and is in charge of military power. If you die in the hands of these southerners now, won't you feel aggrieved? He has not yet married and had children, and has not passed on the family line. If he dies, their family will be completely destroyed. He was still young. Why did he die in the hands of these cowardly southerners? He originally thought that if he threatened these southerners, he would naturally let them go. In his impression, these southerners were all cowards who were frightened by the slightest breath. Who would have thought that they would encounter an iron wall this time? Looking at this, I really want to kill them. Wait. I am the king of Biwan under the Turkic Khan. If you kill me, it will really cause a war between the two countries. If you let me go, I promise to give you gold, silver, and jewelry. What do you want? I can give you anything. If you kill me, it will be more loss than gain. Lishaniu rolled his bull's eyes and roared ferociously. I don't care whether you belong to the king of the South Court or the king of the North Court. I know you are a Turkic dog. How many of my people have you killed? My grandfather died in the hands of you Turks. My aunt was killed by you Turks. He was kidnapped and his whereabouts are unknown, and his life and death are unknown. You Turks do bad things, come to us every year to plunder, and don't treat us as human beings. Now I want you to try what it means not to be treated as human beings. Wait, if you kill me, you can only avenge those people, but it will not solve the fundamental problem. If you don't kill me, not only can I give you gold, silver, and jewelry, but you can also return those slaves to you. I have more than 20,000 slaves under my command. I can send these people back. If you think about it, this is not more worthwhile than killing me. Hamid begged bitterly. He didn't want to die right now, as long as he could live. He will repay these southerners 10 and 100 times in the future. Those slaves are gone, he can them back, but their heads are gone. Then there is nothing. Lishaniu, since what he said is so nice, let's make good use of it and hand him over to Mr. Liu and Mr. Li. Mr. Li will arrange the rest. Jiang's small voice came through the big tent. Lishaniu paused and said, "You're just lucky, Mr. Jiang is in a good mood today. Otherwise, I will definitely chop off your head." Hamd asked cautiously, "Who is Mr. Jiang, and who are you? Could it be that you are the army in Yanmen Pass?" Lishaniu didn't want to talk nonsense at all. Army, huh, what a beautiful idea. Let me tell you, we are not those officers and soldiers in Yanmen Pass. Can those officers and soldiers compare with us? We are the Jiang family army. Do you know that Mr. Jiang is ours? Boss. Even if some more of you come, we won't be afraid of you. You can resist our magical methods. Didn't you see that it was effortless for us to kill 500 of you today? None of our soldiers were hurt. Even if you come back with 5,000, 50,000 people, we will deal with them in the same way. Lishaniu felt really relieved when he thought of today's magical methods. The firearms Mr. Jiang took out were thrown directly into the pile of Turks. After detonating, the Turks suffered numerous casualties. The horses were also frightened and trampled wildly. I don't know how many Turks were trampled to death. This was the most relieving battle they had fought, and it didn't matter how they attacked. Almost all the Turks died, which gave them absolute confidence. They will not be afraid if the Turks come many times as many. Hamed was moved in his heart. The methods used by those people were really something that the southern officers and soldiers did not know how to do. What to do? If those southerners really knew these methods, they would really be helpless. He was not allowed to think too much, he had already been sent to a barracks. The young man opposite is advancing step by step. Having someone cut his finger, he used his blood to write a letter in blood. This letter is to be sent back to the Turkic Khan. In exchange, the Turkic Khan must send back 10,000 war horses, 50,000 slaves, and countless gold and silver jewelry. If this condition is not met, then he will wait for death. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 947. Chapter 947. Don't believe it? The Turkic Khan almost lost his temper and twisted his nose when he received this letter. They Turkic soldiers have never been so insulted. The problem is that no one saw this battle, and did not get even a trace of news, that is, they knew that Hamed and his 500 cavalry suddenly disappeared. Now that the other party has sent this letter in exchange for ransom, they can only start to investigate first. Turkic Khan Ashkenazanzi looked at the news reported by the desk spies. Indeed, they had followed the other party's messenger to detect the other party's location. It is actually one of the dozens of villages in front of Yanman Pass. They are neither officers and soldiers in Yanman Pass, nor any force that they can imagine. They are just simple village tribes of southerners. This is simply unimaginable. Could it be that the king of Bwin under the command of his majestic King Khan actually fell into the hands of some ordinary villagers? Moreover, the other party was so bold that they actually dared to send this letter asking them to pay a ransom. Khan Ashkenazanzi was so angry that he couldn't hide his emotions. Come here. This is an unprecedented humiliation. The Turks have not yet met an opponent who can truly compete with them. Khan. The general under his command, Yeliki, appeared immediately. You sent people with 5,000 troops to rescue Hamed. I don't believe it. The villagers in these villages are going to rebel. By the way, capture these villagers for me. I want to see who is so bold. You dare to ask me, the Turkic Khan, for ransom for doing something like this. Hearing the Khan's calm tone, Yeliki knew that the Khan was angry. The calmer the Khan was, the more angry the Khan was. Not to mention that the Khan was angry about what happened this time. Even when they heard about it, they were furious. Hamed is a man who is brave and foolhardy. If he takes someone out, it is really possible for him to be caught in a trap. The problem is that when he is caught, he will lose face to the Turks. The dignified king of Bwin was captured by some villagers, and he actually dared to pay a ransom. When this word spread, the Turks were almost disgraced. Turned around and went out, ordered 5,000 troops and horses, and set off immediately. The position was very certain. It's just a few small villages, and the combined population is no match for them. No one took it seriously. Yeliki thought that the other party must have used some method and set a trap. However, they were prepared this time and no one could think of falling into the trap. Zhang Xiaoxiao and the others got the news half a day ago. After they captured the other party's Bwin king and sent the ransom letter, Zhang Xiaoxiaju expected something like this to happen. Once the other party knows your details, it would be wrong if they don't fight. Only by beating the other party painfully, severely, and frighteningly can the other party truly pay the ransom. When the villagers in the village got the news, they were a little scared at first. After all, there were 5,000 Turks. Turkic troops have always been raiding, that is, hundreds of soldiers have already made their village miserable, let alone this time there are so many troops. Many villagers are already in a state of panic and even want to run away with their families. Zhang Xiaoxiao directly gathered the village elders and village chiefs to hold a meeting to let them see the power of his 10,000 troops. The simplest military exercise was held. This kind of military exercise naturally pitted two armies against 5,000 soldiers and horses against 5,000 soldiers and horses. Just the neat formation of these troops trained by her was shocking enough. This kind of phalanx is already shocking enough, let alone seeing their final weapons and firearms team. After that powerful bombing, the entire hill was flattened. The appalling situation immediately reassured all the villagers. It turned out that their Zhang family army was an extraordinary team, completely different from those ordinary armies. Even if 5,000 more Turks came to take out this kind of thing, they probably wouldn't be able to withstand it. Immediately everyone began to defend against the arrival of the Turks. Because the villages are surrounded by strong cement walls, there is no fear in any village. The door is closed. In front of the high wall, the strong men dug deep trenches, and many barbs and sharp wood were placed in these trenches. It was to prevent the Turkic cavalry from crossing. Normally, when the suspension bridge is lowered, everyone can pass without hindrance, but when the suspension bridge is closed, it becomes a military obstacle. Zhang Xiaoxiao did not go into battle in person, so there was no point in her going into battle. She doesn't know anything. In this battle, she was not prepared to sacrifice any of her soldiers and horses. This matter must have been handed over to Zhang Qinzi, the leader of the Zhang family army who defected to her. This was the most powerful general under Zhang Suimei's father, and of course the most severely suppressed general. It is said that the young white-robed general from the forward camp actually became a centurion, and a cook centurion. Zhang Qinzi, who had suffered so much humiliation, was naturally not willing to be suppressed like this. When he heard that Zhang Jiajin had appeared here, he immediately realized that there must be someone he knew here. As expected, he met Li Yu as soon as he came, and the two had a deep conversation. He stayed here willingly, of course, especially because he saw the complete difference between this group of Zhang Jiajin and their original Zhang Jiajin. Also saw Mr. Jiang's true methods. So he willingly became one of the generals of the Zhang family army. Li Shiniu, Linda Wang, and Zhang Qinzi each led 3,000 soldiers and horses. The remaining 1,000 soldiers and horses included 500 firearms battalions, which were under the personal control of Zhang Xiaoxiao. Zhang Xiaoxiao knew very well that the killing weapon must be in her hands, otherwise, anyone who took control of the firearms battalion would easily pose a threat to her. Died before leaving the army cannot happen to her. If she dies here, who will take care of the children and her husband? She ordered the people from the 100 firearms battalion to be handed over to Li Shiniu, who was by far the most loyal person around her. Knowing her identity, he with her without any regrets. And no matter what decision she made, Li Shiniu was the one who absolutely supported her without any complaints. At this point, it was difficult for her to find someone she trusted more than Li Shiniu. Li Yu. Zhang Qinzi? These two people are loyal, but they are loyal to Zhang Suimei, the eldest daughter of the Zhang family, not to Zhang Xiaoxiao. Once her identity is exposed, it is really hard to predict whether this loyalty can be maintained. Zhang Xiaoxiao is making plans for the future. He will feel confident if his identity is revealed one day, so he cannot rely on Li Yu and Zhang Qinzi wholeheartedly. Li Shiniu brought 1,000 soldiers and horses, followed Zhang Qinzi's 1,000 soldiers and horses, and Linda Wang's 1,000 soldiers and horses. 3,000 soldiers and horses were sent directly to the forefront of the village to set up an ambush there. Because the village at their forefront is an open area surrounded by mountains and woodland, those Turks who want to rush into the village must pass through this flat terrain, which is also the best place for them to set up an ambush. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 948. Chapter 948 Going Home. Yeliki brought 5,000 soldiers and horses to the front of the village, where there was a particularly open plain area. Everyone should be careful that this area is easy to be ambushed. The cavalry passes through this area quickly, the archers are ready to fight back, and the shield bearers are ready to defend. Yeliki has led troops to fight all year round, so how could he be confused by this small terrain? What Zhang Xiaoxiao and the others could think of, naturally Yeliki could also think of. It was easy to be ambushed in this area. But if you want to rush to the villages in front, you must pass through this section. So Yeliki was very confident. His cavalry was very fast and could not even take a breath to pass through this area. Of course, their archers are far more powerful than those of the southerners, and the shields prepared by the shield bearers are their unique human cowhide shields, which are very tough. He is very confident that even if the opponent dares to ambush here, he can also counter-attack the opponent. Teach the other person a lesson honestly. Turkic soldiers are not soft southerners. Then, suddenly, a black lump of iron appeared out of nowhere and was thrown directly into the team. Everyone was a little surprised, mainly because if it was a bow and arrow, the shield bearer would have known to block it, but these black lumps hit the shield, and they just fell to the ground without any reaction. Everyone looked around with vigilance. There was no response. Yeliki sneered. He dared to use such childish methods. Then something unexpected happened. Suddenly there was lightning and thunder in his own team, and fire splashed everywhere. The 5,000 men and horses were immediately in disarray. Yeliki led the frightened and panicked horse and shouted loudly. Don't panic, pay attention to defending against the enemy. Unfortunately, no one heard his voice at all, and the whole scene was out of control. It was basically all kinds of thunderous sounds, fires, and explosions. At first Yeliki thought he had encountered southern artillery, but later he found out that it was not the case at all. A thunder sounded beside him, and Yeliki was knocked off his horse by a huge force. Hit his head to the ground. Just as Yeliki wanted to get up in embarrassment, someone put a knife on his neck. Don't move, or I'll get hurt and you'll be in trouble. Zhang Qinzi returned to the city with 3,000 soldiers and horses. Their base camp was the open space between several villages, where the main camp was set up. It is convenient for them to return to defend several villages at any time. It is also the safest place for villagers. Zhang Qinzi led his men to suppress the prisoners and came in. Sir, we have captured Yeliki. The voice was filled with excitement. There was no way, this was much more powerful than the Biwan king. This Yeliki was the most capable subordinate of the Turkic Khan, even Hamid could not compare with him. Catch him alive now. It's hard not to be excited. Zhang Xiaoxiao waved her hand. It was no surprise that she used modern military means to win this battle. In fact, it is impossible to win without force. You don't need to bring them up, just suppress them. You send people to ask the Turkic Khan again. Are you going to send people to fight? You should just redeem people honestly. Or we give the heads of Yeliki and Hamid to are they sending it back? Zhang Xiaoxiao was impatient to continue this fight, and her target was the red flame spear. She wants to expand her territory, but obviously the Turks are not within the scope of her expansion of power. The Turks are secretive and cunning by nature. If they conquer others, they may be able to give her a counter-attack if they turn around. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't want to make himself unhappy. Zhang Qinzi was stunned. That's it? Mr. Zhang is too casual. How can he suppress such a powerful Turkic general like this? Shouldn't it be interrogated? Why is there anything else? Zhang Xiaoxiao is looking at the strategic sandbox, which Jin Dachuan asks someone to teach her to do. She will discuss this issue with motor vehicle every few days, and really wants to get Jin Dachuan involved. They are the real military talents, but when Jin Dachuan comes in, he needs to use his little devil. Song Zian finally found peace of mind at home and took care of her family, so she had better not let her move around. Mainly because when Song Zian came, I wanted to kill him directly. That would be the real river of blood. The red flame spear was the first to be frightened away. Zhang Xiaoxiao was reluctant to part with this opportunity that was about to succeed. Number 9 said weakly, "Sister, how about we try to surrender? Pretend to surrender, and then you take number 10 away while they are not prepared." Number 9 wants to go back, but his sister won't even cook for him here. Zhang Xiaoxiao never has time to cook. Surrender. She gave up the idea in an instant. She could surrender and take Li Shenyu and the others to surrender. That would not harm Li Shenyu and the others. It is really difficult to get off the tiger now. Then let's fight. Who is afraid of whom? No. For those who follow her, they believe that she can give them a different life, and they trust her with their wealth and life. Zhang Xiaoxiao cannot just throw away her hands and leave irresponsibly. Number 9 sighed, "Oh, sister, okay. Sister, I will help you find a way to deal with number 10, but if you are so soft-hearted, you will be bullied by number 10 in the future." Will I be bullied by number 10? Number 10 is not for me. Zhang Xiaoxiao was puzzled. Number 9 smiled and bit his finger cutely. The appearance of number 9 was imagined by Zhang Xiaoxiao. Number 10 and I complement each other, but we also inhibit each other. After we merge, we can stimulate Song Moding to wake up. There is another big problem. The energy fluctuation at that moment will weaken my ability. Then number 10 will have the best chance to escape. If number 10 escapes again, I'm afraid I won't be able to catch number 10. Number 10 is already stronger than me, and we can only be considered equal in strength now. At that time, you can only find your big devil's daughter to deal with number 10. But with the help of the connection between you and me, number 10 may use illusions to tempt you to relent and let him go. This is what worries me the most. Zhang Xiaoxiao was surprised. She really didn't know there were so many inside stories. Number 9. What do you mean, Song Moding's awakening will be the greatest harm to you? How is that possible? She and 9 have been together for so long. If 9 is really gone, she will be sad. Even if it was an alien creature, she never thought of harming number 9. Sister, don't be afraid, it's not harm, it's my only chance to return to the universe, I want to go home. Number 9 comforted Zhang Xiaoxiao softly, with a milky voice, as if he was a homesick child. Zhang Xiaoxin felt sour. Although number 9 was a meteorite, he still had memories of his family. Number 10 didn't know what kind of temper he had, but number 9 was obviously an underage child. Innocent, simple, and cute, loves to eat and sleep, and has no bad intentions towards anyone. No 9, I will take you back, don't worry, I will let number 10 go back with you. Zhang Xiaoxiao swore. She can't do it, but Song Zian can definitely do it. Isn't he the great demon king? Number 9 jumped for joy. Sister, really? I believe you, you are the kindest person in the world, sister. I will never let you go. My sister can't bear to leave you either. Zhang Xiaoxiao smiled, this kid's rainbow fart is quite powerful. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lucky Bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 949. Chapter 949 is back. Turkic Khan Ashkenazanzi received this letter with a heavy heart. The two countries are at war without killing the envoys. This is the rule. But when he saw this letter, Zanji felt something was wrong. There is no news from Yeliki so far, and no one has escaped back. 5,000 soldiers and horses and Yeliki have not been heard from. It is difficult to judge whether it is life or death. This letter is no different from the previous one, and it is still asking them to pay ransom and slave horses in exchange for their people. Of course, there is one more Yeliki on the list this time. And the other party's conditions have more than doubled. Zanzi knew in his heart that he was afraid that his general Yeliki would also be captured. No news means a complete victory. This time, he no longer dared to send troops hastily. The 5,000 soldiers and horses led by Yeliki were all strong. It comes without any return and makes no sound. The spies he sent out inquired for a long time, but no one knew the whereabouts of Yeliki. We only know that the soldiers and horses sent by Yeliki have arrived at the other side's village, but there is no news anymore. Of course, some people say that the lightning and thunder that day were the heavenly soldiers and generals who conquered Yeliki. No matter what happened, Yeliki must be in someone else's hands now. Since he dared to send a letter, he must be in someone else's hands. Zanzi had no choice but to call all the other ministers together to discuss what to do. The Turks have encountered heavy snowfall this year that is rare in 10 years. Under this kind of weather, they do not even have enough food. There were not enough horses, so they froze to death, and countless cattle and sheep suffered frostbite. Now such a heavy ransom has to be added. Although they can definitely get it out, the impact on them will be far-reaching. It is definitely impossible not to redeem people. Both Yeliki and Hamid are important officials of their royal family. At that time, it will chill the hearts of the tribesmen who follow him. After a meeting, they determined that it must have been done by the defenders of Yanmen Pass. These southerners are so cunning that they actually want to deceive them into thinking that ordinary villagers did this. How is this possible? If ordinary people had such fighting power, why would they dare to bully the southerners like this? There are not many southerners. Without knowing what magical means the other party used, they certainly would not dare to act rashly. I had to obediently take away all the horses, cattle, sheep, and slaves. They all drove away. Zhang Xiaoxiao and the others were so excited that they received over 10,000 horses at once. Moreover, they are all the strongest Hun's horses. Also, 50,000 southern slaves were received in one fell swoop. Although most of them are women, children, and the elderly, these are the population after all. As long as they are given time to recuperate, these people can be a full workforce. They have opened up so much wasteland, and all the mountains have been developed by Zhang Xiaoxiao. Not only planting trees, but also raising chickens, ducks, pigs, and cattle. All in the form of free-range breeding. These new labor forces will naturally be able to create more wealth in the future. Zhang Xiaoxiao felt pain in his heart when he looked at the slaves with numb expressions and ragged clothes. Being held as slaves, these people have long lost their fighting spirit and are probably living like cattle and sheep. Even now that they have returned to the Southland, they still gather together cautiously. Looking around vigilantly, no one dared to speak loudly, and no one dared to do anything excessive. Looking at the familiar place, they were filled with surprise. How could those Turks send them back in good condition? A lot of times letting them leave meant death, and sometimes the Turkic nobles did it for fun. They would pick out some of the strong men or children among their slaves, drive them away, let them run, and hunt them as if they were prey, with surprise and uncertainty along the way. The result is here. No one could believe that they had escaped. Zhang Xiaoxiao led someone to distribute porridge to them. These people had not eaten for a long time. When everyone received the bowl of porridge shivering with a broken bowl, they couldn't believe it. In their eyes, all they can eat are soups made from grass seeds, roots, bark, and the like. Sometimes if you are lucky and accidentally catch a field mouse, or a rabbit, your life can be improved in everyone's soup. Of course, there are also those meatless bones thrown to him by the slave-owning nobles for their own entertainment purposes. They will also cook them into the soup, which will at least satisfy their stomachs. They are worse than those cattle, sheep, pigs, and horses. In the eyes of the Turks, although they are called two-legged sheep, they are not as good as sheep at all, and they are not worthy of eating the grass like sheep. They have no right to eat food. The Turks' food is very precious, so naturally it is impossible to give it to them. But the bowl of porridge in front of them now is clearly thick porridge. The chopsticks won't fall over when inserted into them. Having not eaten such food in many years, everyone was in a daze holding the meal in front of them, wondering if they would die immediately after eating this bowl of rice. No one dared to move their chopsticks. Everyone watched silently as the bowl of porridge in front of them changed from piping hot to lukewarm. No matter how Li Shiniu, Linda Wang, and others tried to persuade them, these people ate quickly. But no one dared to move. Li Shiniu, Linda Wang, and others felt the same way. These people no longer looked like human beings, they were just like wooden people. A word or an instruction, and they will definitely follow it. At the slightest loud noise, everyone will huddle together like a frightened bird. It seems that this is the only way to feel safe. Zhang Xiaoxiao felt heartbroken when he saw this scene. He walked over, took a broken bowl directly to the big pot, filled a large bowl of porridge with a spoon, and came in front of everyone with chopsticks. These people watched her every move silently. Although they did not speak, they looked around with vigilant eyes. No movement escapes their eyes. It is because of this kind of vigilance that they can survive to this day. What is that person going to do? Zhang Xiaoxiao came in front of everyone. You are all our brothers and sisters, our fathers and brothers. You are afraid, you are worried, you are afraid that there is poison in this rice. I will eat it to show you. I want to tell you, you go home, yes, back to my relatives. From now on, you can have enough food and clothing, and you can live an upright life. You are no longer a two-legged sheep. Zhang Xiaoxiao quickly ate the bowl of half-warm porridge. When she started to choke, the others finally made a move, and tears filled their eyes. Looking at Zhang Xiaoxiao eating the bowl of porridge, he raised the empty bowl. Have clear eyes and an upright demeanor. With tears in their eyes, they began to swallow the porridge in the bowl with force. Although it was cold, in their eyes, it was extremely delicious. They are back. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 950. Chapter 950. It's better to choose a day than to hit it. 50,000 people is not a small number. Coupled with the troops and horses they currently raise, the daily food consumption is very huge. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at the granary full of grain, which meant she had a golden finger. If there was no space, the huge consumption of grain alone would be enough to bring them down. She doesn't even bother to hide it now. Of course, there is already a rumor around Yanmen Pass. Zhang Xiaoxiao from Zhangjiajin is the reincarnation of the god of thunder. Whoever dares to go against Zhangjiajin will definitely be struck by thunder and lightning. Before Zhang Xiaoxiao sent Li Yu to find a way to contact the guard at Yanmen Pass. News has come from Yanmen Pass. The prefect of Yanmen Pass personally brought his troops to their Ljia village, wanting to see the famous young master Zhang of the Zhangjiajin. Prefect Wang Keicheng came with the government officials and a team of 500 officers and soldiers from the city guard. They naturally come to get news. Ljiakan was actually able to capture 2 capable generals from the Turks. This is definitely not the point. The point is that these villagers captured the Turkic king and did not send him to their city to receive the reward. Moreover, he also sent a private letter to the Turkic king. The Turkic king sent 10,000 horses, 50,000 slaves, and countless cattle and sheep. No matter how you look at it, this matter has become very big. If the Turks brought back the 2 great kings and led troops to attack the city in anger, it would not be the hundreds of thousands of soldiers and civilians in the city who would suffer. And can these villagers outside the village stop the Turkic army? Of course, the other question is, how can these villagers collect these things without making a fuss about it? Could these things be enjoyed by some small villagers? Those are 10,000 horses. If they are sent to the military camp in the city, How many more cavalry can be added, and there are also those cattle and sheep. There was a snowstorm this year. Not only the Turks suffered from the snowstorm, but also their soldiers and civilians outside Yanmen Pass. These cattle and sheep can make up for a large material gap. Of course, what the prefect can think of is how much wealth can be exchanged for these things. You can also ask him to spend a certain amount of silver to pay homage to the superiority, and transfer him back to the capital by the way, so that he can save himself from suffering from the wind and sand blowing at the border, and having to worry about the attacks of the Turks and the people here every day. The military and civilians are uneasy. The prefect thinks so, and of course the garrison thinks so too. The two discussed it, so they immediately sent troops to the village to collect these things, and by the way, they reprimanded the villagers, which was simply daring. Although some of these border residents are as bold as barbarians, they are weak after all. Without the garrison of these garrison troops, how could these villagers survive? In their minds, the fact that these villagers were able to defeat the Turkic barbarians and obtain these properties was not all thanks to their garrison. What makes people jealous is of course the generous supplies received in this batch, 10,000 horses. If these horses are put on the market for sale, every Turkic horse will be a good horse. Even if the worst horse is sold at the horse market, each horse will cost between 200 taels of silver and 800 taels of silver. This is literally millions of taels of silver. You must know that there are not many cavalry in the imperial court. It is because of the lack of war horses that it costs a lot to buy good Turkic horses. This is also the reason why they cannot win the war with the Turks every year. The Turkic cavalry is much stronger than them. Turkic horses run fast and have long endurance. Turks are natural herders and good horse breeders, and they have a large number of horses. How can these horses not make people jealous? These are 10,000 horses. The other thing is that this time there are countless cattle and sheep. Although those cattle and sheep are secondary, there are still 50,000 slaves. Although there were 50,000 slaves, they all seemed to be old, weak, sick, and disabled. The problem was that the number of residents in the frontier fortress was decreasing year by year. They could leave early and they were almost gone. The army repaired the city wall and fortifications in order to stabilize the local area. A large number of laborers need to be recruited every year, and these laborers have long been in short supply. These 50,000 slaves now are not a population of 50,000. As long as you give them some food to eat so that they don't starve to death, there will be people to work with. This is definitely a great political achievement, and you can declare your military exploits to the court. The garrison general Wang Ziyi had already planned to fabricate a war that was not in vain. Reporting to the imperial court the fact that he had captured the Turkic king in exchange for the Turks' tribute was a great achievement for him. With such a great military achievement, he could definitely be promoted to a higher rank. The large group of people came directly to Ljia village. Zhang Xiaoxiao and the others had already received the letter. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't know the other party's purpose, and she didn't want to know the other party's purpose. Anyway, she had already set her sights on the defenders of Yanmen Pass. Li Yu has been in contact with his old department recently. Although the final surrender time has not yet been determined, a large number of people have already made up their mind. Especially after they obtain 10,000 army horses, 50,000 slaves, and countless cattle and sheep with great fanfare this time, their small village has such ability, and the 10,000 villagers they trained on the spot actually can defeat the Turks. Many officers who were still hesitating had already made up their mind. Sir, the prefect is here to do bad things. These people must have plotted to get this ransom in your hands. Li Yu knew very well that these officials, like vampire leeches, filled their own pockets, falsely claimed military merit, and framed Zhongliang. There was nothing they dared not do. The current imperial court is a quagmire. It is difficult for those who are in it to be alone. Those who have ambitions and ideals have long been excluded from the court. Like them, they can only watch the court become incompetent day by day. Don't leave if he dares to come. I'm just trying to capture Yanmen Pass, so I might as well take it another day instead of catching the sun and capture it all at once. We also have to be careful and cautious. I want Zhangjiajin's flag to be planted everywhere. In the north and south, we should cherish and know that there is still a pure land in Yanmen Pass. The people still have a place to live and work in peace and contentment. Since the country is about to perish, then we will change to a new world. Zhang Xiaoxiao meant that the new world was naturally a new reform strategy for governing the country. Unfortunately, Li Yu thought Zhang Xiaoxiao was ambitious and wanted to be a monarch. Although Zhang Xiaoxiao was born as a girl, there are many examples of female monarchs in history. Miss Zhang really has that ability, and she has an outstanding business acumen. Just look at how long it has been. Snowflakes and salt have spread almost all over the country, and glass cement, which is something only found in the vassal country, is now readily available here. Don't call it a black technology grenade, this thing is really worthy of its name. Like a thunderbolt in the hand. He didn't know who else was supporting Zhang Xiaoxiao, because Zhang Xiaoxiao had never bothered with food and grass. It was as if Zhang Xiaoxiao had endless food in his hands. Let's not say that Zhang Xiaoxiao is really like this. Yes, sir. Ambition surges in my chest, maybe the world will not be like this from now on. End of this chapter.